shooting down in the woods. He wouldn't leave it even if he could. 'Cause life is good, yeah!
Hickok45, your internet shooting companion, coming to you from the hills, the hot and humid hills, generally, of Middle Tennessee. Yes, the home of Dolly Parton and Alvin York and Davy Crockett for much of his young life and adult life. But anyway, I'm here. What am I going to talk about? I thought I'd do a radio show. I don't know why exactly. I just had a few things I thought I could yak about, and some of you who really just don't have a life might want to listen. Really? Sorry, I don't mean to insult you. It's just what I do best, you know, so you have to go with what you do best, I think, and eventually you'll figure out what it is that you do best. Could be you insult people the best, and that's what you need to make a career out of. I don't know. But anyway, I jest. What have I been doing? Well, I've had some great days, I tell you. I hope you've had some good days. The weather actually in Tennessee, though it has been hot, humid, you can tell from the videos, unless it's one we did a month or two or three ago, and there might be snow in the air. Those pop up every now and then, don't they? But lately, the videos we've been doing, we've been perspiring profusely, of course, because it's in the 90s usually, and maybe the high 90s, and very humid. But again, as I've said before, I'm not really miserable at all. I might look miserable. I might have a miserable brain, but I don't know, maybe it does affect me a little bit when it's really horribly humid and hot. I don't know. You can be the judge of that. But yeah, John and I have always just gotten outside and gone on with whatever we wanted to do. Never let the heat, keep us in the house. And, if you're a shooter and you're coming outdoors person, you don't go hide from the humidity and all that, or even the cold or the snow or whatever. You get out in it and you get sweaty, and then you don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Sometimes I'll change shirts before we do a video because it's just soaking wet or whatever. But most of the time I don't even think about it, don't really worry about it. The most inconvenient thing is just perspiration, dripping on my glasses or on the firearm we're looking at, the leather on the table and all that. But not a big deal. We shooters, we don't sweat the small stuff, huh? No pun intended. Generally speaking, if you are into firearms, you go hang out at the range and you shoot. Yeah, I don't know, little things don't bother you too much. You've chosen a hobby that's not necessarily mainstream, although becoming more and more mainstream. So you don't worry about what other people think too much, probably. And of course that serves us well, and it can also be a detriment maybe to the cause sometimes, because we folks who are into firearms do tend to be an independent sort. And I mean, historically or in general, I think, we're not as much joiners, so to speak, gatherers and, get together and meetings and all that kind of thing as much as we should. It's one advantage the anti-gunners maybe have over us, because they generally come from that touchy-feely left, living their life based on emotion, and that's what they do best, is form groups and work together to end all the horrible things in the world, right? And so, we sometimes it works against us, I think. It's because we do need to organize and stay organized and support, causes if we would like to continue with this wonderful hobby. Now, how did I get off on all that all of a sudden, or so quickly? See? Whew, what a random brain I have. What I was going to tell you was it has been a great day, a great week. The weather took a bit of a change here in Tennessee, is where I was going, away from the humidity and the high heat. And we had several days in Kentucky, Tennessee, where it was high in the 80s, maybe low 80s, and not humid at all. and even chilly in the morning. It was in the 50s in the mornings. And I know this well because I spent a considerable amount of time on the Harley. If you've ever ridden a motorcycle, you know that 60 degrees is not really 60 degrees, is it? It's more like 40, 45 degrees once you get moving 60 miles an hour. So you have to be prepared for that and dress for it and think about it. So here I go from just wringing wet T-shirts out here and around the place, 95 degrees and humidity and everything. And then about 2 days later, I'm planning a ride up into Kentucky and around, and I'm looking at the weather and I'm thinking, okay, I need a long sleeve shirt. Probably my jacket, you know, because I'm leaving out early in the morning both days and all this. And so quite a switch. But I did have a great time. I rode the Harley up to my first long solo trip. I rode up through, Clarksville, northern part of Middle Tennessee, and up through Russellville and Bowling Green, and all over through Glasgow, Kentucky, and to Somerset, Kentucky, and back the next day. That's not all that long for a lot of you. You do all the tours if you ride. I'm not really going to be a tour person, I think. I've just had the Harley for about a year and a half, and I'm probably not going to be into that. These long tours, go off for a week. Ironically, I could, but I don't. It doesn't appeal to me that much, really. Don't think. I was kind of the same way with bicycling. I've bicycled most of my life. I like bicycles. I'm not a nut. I'm not really hardcore with it or anything. As you can probably imagine, I've never had the spandex. I get my cargo shorts and a brightly colored T-shirt. Usually, and that's it. And I hit the road out here as long as there's not much traffic, and it's out where there's hardly any traffic. Never did like to ride in traffic. And I just ride, as much as I want and come home. Yeah, I'm kind of the way with the motorcycle. It's really a, for the exercise, of course, on the bike. I don't know how much exercise a Harley is, but if it starts to fall over, you'll get some exercise, serious muscle building, right? If you know anything about Harleys and what they weigh. But anyway, I had a great trip on the bike, and it was, for me, that was a tour, because I stopped every hour, and it turned into about 4 hours out, which again doesn't sound like much to somebody. I guess it ended up being 5 hours maybe on one leg of it, but just a great trip, and that was enough for me. That was enough. I mean, I could do it again tomorrow. That was fun, but the weather, the low humidity, beautiful weather. I was riding in the morning most of one day, and both days actually, and just gorgeous. I mean, just gorgeous. The sun, clear day, some clouds, but pretty clear, and I mean, really, I don't know that it gets any better. That was it. I'm riding along. Obviously, this is why people like to ride motorcycles. This is why people like to be outdoors. But riding down a 2-lane road, a highway, up through Kentucky and Tennessee, the beautiful countryside, with the wind in your face. Not too much wind. I have a windshield on mine, and my helmet has even a flip down visor comes down. I don't know, kind of covers a good bit of my face, my eyes at least, and that's enough wind for me. But I mean, just nirvana, riding along through those cornfields and everything. If you've never ridden a motorcycle, I'm not advocating it. Obviously, there's a little bit more danger there than riding a car, probably, but not as much as people make it out to be. It's exaggerated, like everything else, but everything else that could be dangerous, right? Whether it's a swimming pool or a horse or a gun, whatever. But if you've never ridden a motorcycle, I was about to say, you probably, like I have been most of my life. Now, I'd ridden some really fast scooters up in Indiana when I was a kid and some different things. I got a taste of it and really, really cool. But being more of a bicycler, I never could make that transition. I'd see people riding a motorcycle while I was out on my bike, and I think, man, you ought to get a bike, buddy. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. Get some exercise, I was looking at it like a bicycle with a motor on it. And that was really the wrong way to look at it. And you may be looking at it that way too. So are you appreciative now that I've told you you're looking at it the wrong way? Hope you appreciate my genius here. No, really, I mean, seriously, I think I was looking at it the wrong way. Because, again, I was looking at it as a bike. You didn't have to pedal. Like a lazy man's bicycle, so to speak. But it's really not. John kind of got me into it because he had one. He bought a Harley, and then he got me for my birthday, if you haven't heard that story, the course, paid for the 3-day course to learn to ride a motorcycle properly. I definitely advise you to take that. Find a place locally, you'll find a place, and take that course if you're going to buy one. But so there I was. I for 3 days I'm wrestling with that motorcycle and learning to ride it, and it was hot. Of course, you had to wear long sleeve shirts and jeans, and we're out in the sun, and it really, as hot and uncomfortable as it was, I enjoyed it, and it was fun. We hardly got out of the parking lot. I guess we didn't get out of the parking lot, really, big parking lot. Yeah, but I realized that this could be fun, and now I rode John some. Once I got my license, I could get on it anytime. I rode it a little bit and realized, yeah, it's pretty cool. Might want one of these. I'm not going to become a full-time motorcycle guy, but I could tell this is fun. And got to looking around and found a Harley, and one that I liked with what I wanted on it. I wanted a windshield. And the Road King Classic is just perfect for what I wanted. But anyway, as I ride it now, and I realize this, pretty early on, it's not a realization I had this weekend or anything, or this today, it is a different category. It's not a bicycle with a motor. It's really more like a car without a top, or without two of its wheels. It really, that's really what it is. It's as you move down from a regular car. Let's say the first step is a convertible. Put the top down. All right. Well, if you could take a couple more notches down, you got a motorcycle. It really comes from that direction. And I know I'm not explaining this very well. It just sort of hit me, but that's really what it is. It's not a bicycle with a motor on it. And if you've looked at it that way, it's really not. For one thing, you ride it so differently. In a lot of ways, I feel like it's safer. I've been thinking about it. I've been on my mountain bike. I like my regular, and I'm talking bicycle, my mountain bike. I was on it today, so I'm here around the farm. I've got trails. That's the reason originally why we cut the trails. Some of these trails you see me walking down, keeping zombie free and everything, those were biking trails. For years. That's why I initially cut them about, 20, 25 years ago. And so I thoroughly enjoy that. It's great exercise. And I'm going to do more of it and lose some weight. But I've thought, too, about getting my other bike. I've got a nice road bike, getting back out on the road some. And I probably will some. Because I do have an area here close to where I live that's just not much traffic, but still, it's a county road. And when you get on the road with a bicycle, yeah, it's exercise, but man, I see it now as being even more dangerous than going out on that motorcycle, that Harley, because every car that comes up from behind you is a potential death machine for you, because it's coming and it's going to pass you. You're in the road. You're in its road. Okay? So every single car that comes up behind you has to see you and avoid you. Every single one of them, or you're a goner. Okay? That's the big thing. That's when I ride my road bike. a bicycle, I use one of those little mirrors I attach to my glasses where you can look up and see. So I always, I just won't go out without it. I see the cars coming, and then I notice whether or not they notice me, early on. If I see one's coming right at me and I can hit the ditch or something. But that's the issue you face with a bicycle. And unless you go to a greenway or somewhere, which you feel like, oh, I'm like a grandma in the greenway riding along. But it is kind of nice to not have to think about cars. I've done that with my wife, many times, and there is something to be said for that, because you don't have to think about those 2 or 3 ton vehicles running you over. But anyway, on a motorcycle, so I get on the Harley and go out the road here. That's not an issue. I can outrun any car in the county with that thing. You just motor on along. So cars coming at you are not an issue unless they cross the center line, just like with a bicycle or a car or anything else. That's not good. But cars coming up behind you, that's not really a factor. That really should not happen unless you're creeping along too slowly. So, and then if they do, they just have to wait for you to pull off somewhere. You have the road. And bicycle you technically do too if you want it, but with the motorcycle you definitely have the road. But you're moving along at the same speed. That's what I'm getting at. And so, those are not issues. You have other issues, of course, watching to be sure people pulling out from side streets see you and all that sort of thing. But you can watch for that. That's in front of you mostly. Death is not creeping up from behind. It's trying to pull out in front of you. But if you're really alert and you're watching for that, and you're driving really defensively on a motorcycle, you can pretty much eliminate that. So you just assume everybody's going to pull out in front of you. You assume they're going to run the lights, and you're just watching for that. And you slow down or speed up and avoid that potential for the most part. I drive extremely defensively on the motorcycle. But anyway, I know I ramble too much about that. But these are kind of things that people like. Shooters, lots of times are into cars or guns and motorcycles and all that, or contemplating it. Show me a guy, sorry girls, I don't mean to be sexist, but show me a guy who hasn't thought about getting a motorcycle, and at least entertained the notion of it. Or had thoughts of it of some sort. So, I think it's semi-relevant. But I had a great trip. I mean, to tell you, I got all the way up there and back, and spent the night and everything. But it was just a beautiful trip. I'm anxious to do it again. Now, the reason I did it, lots of reasons, but there was absolutely no rain in the forecast at all. Sunny skies. If you live anywhere in my part of the country, they were the whole 4th of July weekend was not a drop of rain forecast, and then still through Monday. I'm talking to you on Sunday here afternoon. It's not supposed to rain today or tomorrow, so I was tempted to just take on further, and I didn't do it. But anyway, beautiful time. Not advocating you buy a motorcycle unless you're already shopping. But I mean, it's wonderful. It's hard to describe it. It really is. I love it. Obviously, since I've done it most of my life, all of my life since I was 4, I guess, I love bicycles and want to get back doing more of that too. But you get the same feeling. You're out there on the road and you're moving along. You know how it is on a bicycle when you get up a little speed on the road, or you're going down a hill. The difference is when you're on a motorcycle, especially a heavy one, you don't feel like it's going to shake apart on you or anything. You can cruise along pretty fast, and that's taken me a while to get used to. I don't really like riding on the interstate much. Man, you get to be up to 70 miles an hour on a motorcycle, and you really feel like you're moving. I mean, you really are. And I enjoy riding along 50, 60 miles an hour, as you can do on about any, secondary highway, state highway. So anyway, great trip. I've had a great trip, man. That was fun. This weather I've thoroughly enjoyed. Got on the tractor and I got back, did some bush hogging, been on the bicycle, like I said, and been doing a little shooting too already. Believe it or not, and I've got some guns out here in the reloading room. What do I have here? Let's see. Let me grab this one. Well, let's see if you can tell what it is. Yeah, you probably know that sound. Everybody should by now, these days, as popular as these things are. Yeah, it's an AR. It's my Colt, my 6920. You've seen it out here for a couple of reasons I may go into here. But one thing, I was checking out these magazines. I don't know if you can hear that, sound like a magazine. I got someone contacted me, oh man, it's been a long time now. Got these magazines in, and maybe you've heard of them. Where's the box here? There's one. They are, it's on the magazine too, ETS, I think. Yeah, I can read it. It's cleverly written here. It's hard to read on the thing. Yeah, ETS. Yeah, Elite Tactical Systems. You familiar with those magazines? I don't think they've been out there much yet. But they're a polymer magazine, and they contacted me, wanted to send me some, said these great magazines and all this. I said, okay, yeah, right. Everybody's just great. But they are interesting. I haven't actually tried them yet, but they're very interesting. Let me put it that way. You can see through them. You can see the rounds, a pretty little 5.56 rounds in there. And they lock together. Okay, that's what is interesting. I don't think I knew that when they came. I opened them up finally, looked at them, and we got a very interesting, a raised portion on each one. Kind of a male and female sort of thing. Sorry there, kids. Get your parents to explain that too. But you put them, you hold them together and twist it, and they lock together so that you instead of using tape or something or some of the other contraptions you see out there, then you can have two of them or even three, I guess. You want the weight fastened together, and they still go up into the magazine well, and pretty interesting. I'll have to say, if they function, I'm going to kind of like them. I have to say, I don't know if I like them better than a Magpul, because Magpuls are wonderful, aren't they? But they're definitely interesting. If you get a chance, you see them online or something. See what you think. We'll do next AR video we do. I'll try them out, and I'll try them out before that, and I'll show in the next AR video we do. Okay, so that's one reason I had that out. I was putting the aim. It's not an aim point. I call it an aim point, but it's a red dot scope, the Vortex, back on my. Or just putting it on my Colt. I've had all sorts of things on there. I've had the ACOG, and I even have had the old school handle on there lately, and then I put this back on. I took it off the what is it? I can't even think of the name of it. The lightweight AR. You haven't seen the video yet, have you? You know why you haven't seen it? Because we have not posted it yet. I come think of it. But you saw a picture on Facebook, and I'm drawing a blank on it. I'll think of it before I'll let you go today. But Mag Tactical Systems, there you go, it came to me. Mag Tactical Systems, and we had the Vortex on there in that video, and I probably, I don't know if we'll do another video with that gun or not. We did a long video with it. We shot from everywhere and really tried to wring it out, to tell you the truth. I shot it a good bit before the video, shot it in the video a lot, different ranges, all sorts of things, tried to heat up the barrel, and so we really put that thing through it, and it came out successfully, I'll have to say. And so I wanted to get that sight off of it and use it on well, not on this necessarily today. I have been, I'll just say, let me say this, in the interest of full disclosure and keeping you all abreast of what's going on in firearms, as I have talked about before many times, our job is not to do bashing videos. Any gun can be an aberration. The Ed Brown we got recently, the thing could have started malfunctioning like crazy, right? And of course, everybody knows that's probably not going to happen. 99.9% of the time, it could have. You could have a gun that never works for anybody that could work really well for the one I got or the one someone else has. So there can always be the aberration in this. So we don't get into posting a video that could get whatever, 100,000, 500,000, a million views, and it's not really a representative of whatever it is. But anyway, I do want to let you know I have been working with the newer, I think it's a newer caliber for the Just Right carbine in 45 ACP, and just have trouble getting it to work well enough to even do a video. Okay, so buyer beware if you're thinking about one of those. I don't know. I think they're still working out the bugs on the 45 caliber apparently, and I'll keep you up to date on that. But I can't get this one it'll just be a bashing video, which we don't do, just to get attention, just to get views. We don't need to do that. So anyway, it's going back. So I had the red dot on it, and I realized, okay, that was a waste of time putting it on there. So now it's back on my Colt, and I'd leave it on there for a while. I'm actually learning to like a red dot scope a little bit. I'm kind of an iron sight guy. I don't have to tell you that, do I? But I tell you, those things, they look good. And when they're sighted in, I like them. I like them just fine. I can go either way, metal or one of those are my preferences. Really, I think even more than the ACOG. I think the ACOG is probably more powerful in terms of, it's a 4-power scope. I think I'd like it better if it were like a 2-power or maybe a 1. I may trade that or sell it and trade it for a lower powered ACOG or something, or just get a nice red dot. Don't know. But anyway, that's what I've got out here. What else? I had another gun. Oh yeah, I've got the Ed Brown out here. I was going to shoot it some more. We've done a chapter 2 with it, so we have really shot it a fair amount. You've seen the first video with it. Hear it? Yeah, feels pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, there's a lot of interesting discussion about whether or not any gun is worth $2,500 or $3,000 and all of that. I won't belabor that. We all have our opinions on that, and I guess a lot of it comes down to a lot of things, really, doesn't it? It comes down to, for one thing, whether or not you even like 1911s, period. If you don't care much for 1911s, you're especially going to think it's crazy to pay even $1,000 for one. And if you do like 1911s and you've had a lot of success with your whatever, your $800 one, your $500 1911, or your $1,500 one, and you're going to think it's crazy to spend $3,000 maybe. Although a lot of people, I thought, made some pretty interesting comments about how they do go to another level when you get to the Ed Brown, Les Baer, Bill Wilson, machines, and not needed maybe, but still another level, kind of like a car. We could all argue that, $15,000, $20,000 is plenty to buy a car and get around in, right? Definitely $30,000, $35,000. You get a really nice car for $30,000, $35,000, but yet people all over the place, spend $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 on a car, heck, on a truck. I was looking at trucks when I got the Honda Ridgeline. I couldn't believe it that they were so high, really. A regular Ford 150 or Chevy or whatever. It's easy to pay $40,000 for a truck. So, but there's always a higher level that somebody has taken the same product and done something, at least what they consider the next level. And with a firearm, of course, the most important thing is it's being reliable and, hitting where you point the darn thing, of course. And once you get to that level, you've got a usable product, don't you? So in that sense, you don't need a $2,000 gun or a $3,000 gun for sure. So it depends on your income and all those kinds of things, for sure, with your values. Of course, there's probably somebody bad-mouthing anyone who would spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a gun, call them idiots, and they're driving a $50,000 car. So I'm sure there's some hypocrisy out there, but that's okay. That's okay. It's the way people are, aren't they? But anyway, this is a really neat pistol. I guess I fall down on the side. Obviously, I'm not going to be bad mouthing people for paying $3,000 for a gun. So that'd be the side of it I'm on. Although it's not necessary. I certainly don't do it too often. I get a couple that I've put a lot of money in. I've accumulated guns over my lifespan, and I trade around, and all that kind of. I have a gun fund, and I'll sell a gun or two, and then buy something. So over the years, I have gone from having a bunch of guns, so guns, to where I've tried to trade and sell to upgrade. Maybe sell or trade a couple of so guns or junkers for something better. And try to consolidate into maybe fewer nice guns. That's kind of, and in fact, before the video projects, I was really trying to do that. And then, of course, it all explodes, and we get guns in from everywhere, and T&E guns, and we're trying to, show any gun that is of interest to people that's being requested and is popular, and so end up with more guns than obviously I need. But it's just, of course, it's different. It's just different what we're trying to do here. But if I quit doing videos tomorrow, I'd get back on that program, trying to consolidate down into fewer guns, but just good ones, really good ones, the ones I really want, maybe the best quality in a category or whatever, with just the perfect accessories maybe and all that sort of. Not that I don't do some of that already, but I'd be more interested in reducing the numbers probably of them. But the Ed Brown, it is a nice pistol, and he has offered me a discount on it, and a nice discount. So I've got that to contemplate, and again, in the interest of paring down into maybe more quality and less quantity. There may be. I've got 2 or 3 that I could sell, and that's what I always think. I think, okay, I don't need that gun, even at that price. Even though that's a great price for that gun, I think I don't really need it. Spend that kind of money. But then I think, okay, but wait a minute. What would I rather have? Would I rather have, 2 or 3 different guns that I can name in my safe, that I have shot, they're okay, maybe I don't know where I got them, bought them on a whim or something, enjoyed them for a couple of years, but don't ever shoot them. So would I rather have those still there, or this Ed Brown? So, those kinds of decisions, hopefully lead me in the right direction. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. One thing this falls under, again, to pontificate and wax philosophical. One of the things this falls under too. It's this thing I talk about sometimes is people who are just getting into firearms or don't have a lot of experience with firearms, and so their entire perception of a $400 gun or an $800 gun or a $1,500 gun, it's just different from maybe yours and maybe mine. They don't have enough experience to, for one thing, you would think it's really stupid paying a couple $1,000s for a gun if you cannot even appreciate the difference. You pick one up and it feels exactly like your TSOS or your Rock Island Army. You don't see any difference even shooting them. They're the same gun to you. You just haven't been shooting very long. You're new to 1911s, for example. And so, that's stupid. Pay a lot of money for so a lot of it does come down to, how much experience someone has in a field, or with firearms or with specific types of firearms. And have they ever shot a really nice one, how much have they shot it? Have they compared them and taken them apart, cleaned them? All that plays into it. Not just 1911s, of course, any firearm system, with Glocks or anything, rifles. The more experience you get with anything, then the easier it is to see the differences, those finer points. They may not be all that important, those finer points, but at least you see it. You can feel it, okay? And that's why I try to keep from being, elitist, of course, in that regard. Having handled so many 1911s and taken them apart, cleaned them, fired them, and all of that over for decades. Not to pat myself on the back, but I can probably sense the difference. Okay, so I can at least see the difference. I can feel the difference, even if they're pretty subtle. And whether or not those differences are worth it, is another matter. But if you have a lot of experience with something, it's kind of like that old race car analogy I use. I can get in a race car and just probably going to feel like junk to me. The steering's going to feel odd, and this is crazy. My Honda has much better steering than this, or whatever. Well, I don't know. I've not driven around a track 200 miles an hour, and all those sorts of things, and experimented with different steering mechanisms and 100 different cars going that fast, and so a lot of it does come down to how much experience a person's had with different firearms. A lot of people never even have felt an Ed Brown or a Bill Wilson or Les Baer, never racked the slide on one, it was just one of the things. I should have shown this in the video. I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but if 1911s, it's always easier to rack the slide if the hammer's cocked, right? And you'll see me in videos doing that quite often. If I'm going to rack the slide or put one into the chamber or something, sometimes I'll just cock the hammer and make it easier to, pull the slide back, because the hammer it's like it doesn't hold it really, but it does cause it to be a little bit harder to rack the slide. Well, for example, just as an example, and I'm not even sure what it all is about it that causes that, but I noticed with my Cobra Carry, the other Ed Brown, and this one, when the hammer's down, I'm doing it right now, and I rack the slide, there's no difference. There's no difference between the hammer being cocked and the hammer being down. Okay, so you folks that know 1911s and have a couple, and maybe you've not messed with one like this, you might find that interesting, because there may be some really low-end 1911s like that, I don't know. But whatever it is that Ed Brown does, it changes that. Now, I don't know what that is. I don't know that would be such an important factor to make a 1911 more reliable or more finely tuned or anything, but it is a characteristic of both of them. And if I get a Bill Wilson in or a different one sometime, I'll see if it's the same way. Oh, I almost forgot. There's another firearm right here too. Right at my foot, standing against the shooting bench here, or the workbench. And it's the good old '03 A3 that you might have seen in the Facebook posting that I got at Louisville. Yeah, that's it. Hear it? Work that bolt. Beautiful old warhorse. World War II. Great rifle. 30-06. And this one is 1943. It's all original. And I've shot just about 4 shots. I'm going to shoot some more. And it seems like the sights are right on. It's got a peep sight. It's a wonderful thing if you like bolt action military rifles. The one I have, the '03 Springfield, that was made in 1918, is very much like this. It's I just knocked a holster off hanging on the ceiling with the barrel. It is doesn't have the peep sight though. It has a different sighting system, and just the notches, which is really hard to see. And I like the age of the other one. It goes back even further, but it's just not as much fun to shoot. I mean, it's really hard to see the sights on that thing. And not just for me. I mean, it's a challenge for most people, I think. But this one, you don't have that limitation at all. So I will shoot this one a lot more. That other one was just, it really is more of a safe queen and just something to get out and take a couple of shots with occasionally and just enjoy the beauty of it. It's a 1918. It's just a good looking rifle. This one has all those characteristics, but it's also a shooter. So that's what I got that in Louisville. And that was a great gun show. That was last weekend. Yeah. So also traded a Colt single action second generation for another Colt single action second generation. So I'll show that one to you. Really nice 5.5 incher. And I traded a late second generation that I was having a really hard time finding grips to fit it for an early second generation 5.5. And just a really nice one. I had to pay boot on that. Just a really nice one. If you know anything about Colt single action Army pistols, revolvers, they're very collectible. I shoot them, of course, but the early second generation guns are considered to be some of the very best ones, if not the best ones, of the entire run since 1873. And they're just splendid. And I believe from my reading that it's generally considered the best quality seem to be found in the first generation from around, 1920 up until World War II. And then when they started up again after the war, in the 50s, up until about, mid to late 60s, 1960s. Just extreme quality. And I also understand the new ones are, believe it or not, you'd think that would be just the opposite, but the new ones that they're turning out are really nicely done. There was a period of time there with the third generation guns and even the late second generation guns in the 70s that they just, I don't know what it was, labor issues or what, but they did drop in quality to some extent. They really did. And through the 90s, and I think around, about 10 years ago, they kind of upped their game there, and they're fine. Some of the newest ones are, in fact, I was reading just the other day, somebody was saying if you want a Colt single action and you want a third generation one, just order a brand new one. You're better off just get a brand new one. They're the best of the lot, and and they're not even as expensive as some of the. You might find one's 10 years old or 20 years old. Some's made in the 80s or 90s. You're better off buying new ones. They're all third generation guns anyway. So anyway, little Colt single action Army talk. So I came back a happy boy from that gun show because you think about it, the kinds of things I like. Of course, there's not many guns I don't like to some extent, but a good old bolt gun made in 1943, used in World War II, and a Colt single action made in the 1960s. So can't be all bad, right? I had to give up a couple of guns, but it was well worth it. I can tell from comments and questions over the years that there are a lot of people who live in other countries, but even in the United States, live in areas where there really are no good gun shows in their vicinity, and they have questions about things, or they can't find something that I see regularly at gun shows, especially a big gun show like that one in Louisville. And I don't know where you live, of course, but if there's check around. If you are a gun nut, you really enjoy the hobby, you're looking for things, and you're just fascinated by firearms, you really do need to get to a big gun show, a regional gun show. Find out where the best one is, and it would be worth a considerable drive because you see things there you don't see anywhere else. You don't see in a gun shop. You might be living somewhere where you don't even have a really good gun shop. I'm spoiled, of course. I've always lived near a larger city, but in the country. And in Nashville, we have several gun shops around the area that that have a variety of firearms. Some of them have mostly new firearms, but there are a couple that have lots of old guns and different things where you're liable to run into anything. And at gun shows, a good gun show, you especially are liable to run into anything. And the one in Louisville is better than the ones that we have in Nashville and around Middle Tennessee, because although it's not as big as it used to be, because it truly is a show to some extent. They have about 4 there a year, I think, maybe 5. They call them Gun Day and all this, and a couple of them at least are they're in conjunction with a military firearms or military show, and so there's also a military theme there too, with more old gun, well, like this bolt action, just more of that sort of thing, and I like to go to those. But yeah, you see things you can pick up and hold that you may not have ever even seen in person. I mean, there were Henry rifles there. If I had $60,000-$70,000 in my pocket, I could have bought an original Henry rifle. No ammo, but there's the rifle. So that kind of thing. It's neat just to see it. You may walk by a table and someone collects. There's a Ruger collector there. I've seen him for years at some of the shows. He has every Ruger I think ever made. But there was, you might run into a Colt single action, for example, that was made in like 1880 that looks like a brand new one. I mean, somebody's got those somewhere, right? They're not many, but somewhere there was one. There were several bought, preserved, never fired maybe, or barely fired, and kept in a safe and kept oiled and cleaned and just never really shot them or did anything to damage them. And it would look essentially new. And it's funny, when John was younger, he saw one like that on a table. He thought it was a third generation Colt. He's looking at it, there's one dad, and then the price on it, it was like, I don't know, $10,000 or $20,000. And I said, no, wait a minute, something's not right. And sure enough, it's a first generation Colt. So it's neat to go somewhere where you can see all that stuff, the old stuff, and as it existed, there it is. You don't have to buy it. It's just neat to see it. You don't have to own it to enjoy, seeing it. But I really highly recommend, if you really enjoy firearms, try to get to one of these big gun shows. You can learn a lot just looking around. You might find something that you're more interested in than you realized you were. That's for sure. A lot of expensive guns out there, no doubt about it. I still have not gotten to the Tulsa gun show. That's, I think, is supposed to be the biggest one in the country, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Was it Winnemakers or something like that? I just have not gotten to it. I need to check the schedule, see when the next one is. I need to just get in the car and go. Problem is, it's a good hard day's drive, long day's drive, and I think it takes a couple of days to get through it, and then a day to drive back. And is it worth 4 days to go to a gun show? Well, to me, maybe. Yeah. No need me act like that's totally out of the question, right? Because that's something I would actually do. Speaking of AR-15s, again, that mag tactical system, I keep thinking that video has been posted and all this, but it has not. And some of you, if you don't follow me on Facebook, you don't know anything about it. It's a really lightweight AR, under 5 pounds, if you can imagine. If you know anything about AR weights, it feels like nothing. It's amazing. And the people from Mag Tactical, gave it to us. And I really originally thought, okay, well, yeah, if you're going to give it to us, we'll play with it, shoot it, probably put it in a video, show what we think about it. But I was not familiar with them, and did a little research after the fact, and after looking around, and fired the gun a little bit here and there, messed with it, and I thought, well, this thing is so light. I mean, it's got to just get off target. The accuracy's got to be affected after a few shots. And is it going to hold together and everything? But from what I found out, it actually they're a respected company, and I'd shoot it a little bit now and then, and yeah, felt okay. You get a little bit more recoil or impulse even from a 5.56 because it's so light. But I got the red dot on it, got it sighted in, and it seems to shoot well, and even shot it fast, shot it a lot, and still seemed to shoot fine, best I could tell. I'm not a bench rest, sort of guy, but seemed to shoot fine for what I want an AR with, and I was surprised, to tell you the truth, but we put it through its paces, as I said, and if you're looking for a really light AR, I think there are other options. Obviously, that's not the only one probably, but although they do claim to be the lightest metal AR, I think. I'm sure that'll change, but everybody's trying to go lighter and lighter. But, it's not polymer, it's magnesium alloy, the upper and the lower, an aluminum rail and, forearm. Even the flash hider is an aluminum alloy. It's got a pencil thin barrel. So even the carrier on the bolt, the carrier is skeletonized to an extent. It comes from what's the company that makes the Rubber City Armory, I think is the name of it. I was not familiar with them, but they've got all. It's kind of like the bicycle. Speaking of bicycles, how they've figured ways to make them lighter and lighter over the years. Titanium parts and everything, alloy, carbon fiber, everything they could think of to make them lighter. I guess that's part of the game now in the AR industry. If you want a really light one, you can get a pretty light AR. And anyway, interesting gun. Seems to be well made. We did a video with it. We'll pop it up there before too long. But the bottom line is that it seemed to work. We had no problems with it, when it's hot, cold, or anything else. As I point out in the video, I think maybe people don't appreciate that or think about that. It's really hard to fully test, quote unquote, a firearm. That's something I don't pretend to be the ultimate tester of firearms. I can't unless Federal wants to back up a truck every day of ammunition, for one thing. That wouldn't be fun, really, putting 20,000 rounds through some firearm just to see if it'll hold up or how it holds up. Can't do that. Just give you, a feel for it, shoot it several hundred times maybe, and let you know how it's working, how it seems to me at this point. And then we just have to follow these guns. Because, as I was saying earlier, with any gun, one gun can be an aberration. And for you people in Kentucky, that means it could be an exception. Okay, I mean, anything might work once, or even the very best firearm made. There could be a lemon come out, So you really would have to, as I think I said in the video, you really have to have multiple copies of a firearm. Like for this Ed Brown line here, this beautiful Ed Brown 1911s line here in front of me, just to keep my spirits up here, to add to the ambiance, to fully test, okay, the ultimate Ed Brown 1911 test. We're going to do it. This is the time. Are these guns really reliable? Do they work? Well, it would be cool, I guess, if somebody got 2 or 3 Ed Brown pistols. You'd need more than that, maybe 5 or 6 of them. And I don't know 15, 20,000 rounds of ammunition. And just fire them under all circumstances. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of rounds. Just keep firing them, Maybe 40 different kinds of ammunition. I don't know, maybe somebody's done that, but it's just not feasible, And I always think of that when somebody, when we do have an AR in to test, quote unquote, or to shoot. Well, that's kind of a battle rifle. You get right down to it, isn't it? I mean, we consider them a battle rifle, I guess. They're an offshoot of a military rifle. The whole design is intended to be effective and to last and be accurate and to hold up in battle. So, I assume they're going to. I mean, to push an AR to its limit, to actually see where it's going to break or not work or cease to be, practically accurate, let's say, my gosh, how many thousands of rounds do you need to fire through one, or how many millions of rounds do you need to fire through one? And again, through multiple copies of it. So because anything could work once, anything could break. So anyway, that's why I remind everybody that you just got to stay in touch with the internet, like you do probably, and see what people's experiences with various firearms is. What are they finding? What are you seeing as you go to AR-15 or wherever, or some of the 1911 websites, any of the guns, where the Firing Line, Glock Talk. There's lots of good forums out there, in addition to YouTube. In some ways, I guess, unless there's a lot of videos on a particular gun, maybe, but the forums, which I used to prowl around a lot more before I started YouTube stuff, you really get a lot. You can get a lot of information out there in a hurry, as many of you know, because when I'm trying to find out about a firearm I'm contemplating buying, or one we're going to do on video, I'll Google around and I'll find 4 or 5 different threads on it on AR15.com or Glock Talk or different places, the Firing Line, and I'll just read what people are saying about it, what their experience is with it, and you gradually, it doesn't take all that long to hear what maybe 8 or 10 different owners their experiences are with that specific firearm, and someone may write, assuming they're telling the truth, of course. I mean, most people are, some are not, but you'll get somebody who maybe has had that firearm for 5 years, and they've shot lots of different, and that's what I used to try to do when I was spending more time on the forums, because I had a lot of experience with Glocks, for example, and I would go on the Glock Talk and maybe answer questions or ask questions and give my experience. And so, it's just people like you and me letting other readers and members, know what they know about a particular gun or something. So I think they're a really treasure trove of information, and that's where you really find out. Sometimes it's very quick. I mean, you learn in a hurry that a lot of people are having trouble with a particular gun or a particular magazine, or particular ammo. You see 3 or 4 different people, totally unrelated, even in different threads, saying the same thing about their experience with a particular ammo or something. That starts to get pretty credible very, very fast in my mind. And so anyway, information's out there. There's no way that we can, fully test anything. My gosh, I wouldn't even enjoy doing that. Join a lab somewhere, go work in the lab at the Colt factory, if I want to do that, and burn a few thousand rounds through every time they come out with a new bolt or something, or a new barrel design or whatever. Changing topics, I still get a lot of questions about what's the best gun, this one or that one, and all that. And again, of course, no one person can tell you what the best gun is. There is no best gun, and it's like asking, what car should I buy? It really is. What car should I buy? There's so many choices, and it all depends on you and what you're going to do, how you're going to carry it, what are you looking for, what kind of holster you're going to want. You don't even know that yet, maybe. There's just so much when you're new to it. But some of the things you need to look at, again, are what are you going to do with this gun? Is it just for defending your house? If so, it doesn't have to be that small, does it? It can be larger. I've got the Glock 41 employed for part of that role right now. It's a big old gun. Are you going to try to carry it? Is it going to be a house defense gun 90% of the time, but you might carry it some of the time? Is it going to be a gun you want for deep concealment? As you move up the size scale on firearms, your smallest guns would be something that is going to be deep concealment, really tucked away, like a little LCP or something that you can almost hide in your ear, really, really small? Is it just a regular concealed gun, but you need a small concealed gun because it's going to be a pocket gun most of the time, okay? So all that, you have to answer those questions for yourself. And then once you answer those questions, then it opens up a whole world of specific firearms, for that purpose. Is it going to be just a pocket gun? Or are you looking for a pocket gun, but you want to be able to wear it as a belt gun also? Maybe one that's a really good belt holster gun, but kind of awkward, maybe a little big for the pocket, but you've got some big jeans or big cargo pockets that you would possibly carry it sometimes in a pocket holster, even though it's a little large. So I'm thinking like a Glock 27 or something in that area, 26. Or is it strictly going to be a belt gun? Belt holster. If it's going to be a belt holster, whether inside the waistband or outside, then size becomes less of an issue, although it is nice to have a smaller gun. It doesn't need to be as small, does it? Then you can think about how it feels in your hand, and it doesn't feel right. You want one plenty big that you can shoot well. Gets into a totally different category of firearms. Or is it for duty? Like a big old gun, you're a uniformed police officer, security guard or something. Then it can be even bigger and it doesn't matter. You're not going to be trying to conceal it. And that's where you hear the phrase duty gun. If it's a duty gun, it's just a different category. They're generally bigger. Just like the Beretta, the M9, the 92 FS or whatever, the big old 9mm, but it's the military pistol. And, nobody's trying to conceal it generally in the military. It doesn't matter how big it is, as long as it's not too big and not too heavy, right? So, all that stuff is what you have to answer. I can't really tell. Nobody can tell you what the best gun is, even what the best choice is between a couple of guns. Sometimes I'll get someone will write me up and list 2 or 3 different firearms, and what do you think I should get? It's kind of the same thing. Now, unless one of them's an obvious, knockoff, I'll say, yeah, well, I would choose between these two, or my choice would be that, but, whatever you prefer. But you got to answer those questions for yourself. You really do. How are you going to use it? What do you want to do with it? And the sad thing is, it's not really sad, but it's what makes it even more difficult is you might not even know yet how you're going to carry it, because if you're really green, if you're really a newbie, you think you want to carry it in a belt holster, but maybe it turns out that's not as convenient as you thought it was, and 6 months down the road you realize, I'm more suited for pocket carry. It's just the way I dress and everything. I needed a pocket gun, or vice versa. I bought this little bitty gun, which is great for the pocket, but I really would prefer a holster gun because I can shoot them better. It's a little bit bigger or whatever. Same with caliber and all of that. So you got to do a lot of thinking and get to that gun show I'm talking about, or a good gun shop, and hold a lot of firearms. If you're a little bit reluctant to talk to people in gun shops and have them fish out 5 or 6 different pistols, some gun shops aren't very friendly. Let's face it. But get to a gun show. And one thing about a gun show, if you don't know that, is it's easier to at least handle or grasp a lot of different firearms. They generally let you pick them up. Some of them they want you to, ask before you pick it up or say something, but a lot of them even don't. You can just pick it up and hold it. So, you could literally pick up 100 guns in 30 minutes, just see how they feel, what size they really are, and help you narrow down. Somebody take notes, take pictures. Well, usually I don't want cameras at the gun show. Of course, everybody's walking around with one, right, if they have a phone. But, make a note of the model numbers and everything, the top ones that you like the most or feel the best to you, and then maybe go to a gun show or a gun shop, good gun shop, and look at those again, and you got it narrowed down to a couple. And if you're lucky and get a good sales clerk or a knowledgeable person in the gun shop, they'll really help you point out some of the weaker and strong points of those firearms. Maybe they have a rental range. maybe they have those firearms in their rental collection where you could actually pay and go in there and shoot them. That's the ideal thing. So, but anyway, you have a lot of decisions to make, and you try to get a good idea how you're going to carry it. If you're going to carry it, I always say that, but a lot of places you cannot carry a firearm, where you might be listening to me right now. Well, you're not listening to me right now, but you'll be listening to this when I post it, right? You better not be listening to me right now. I'm sure the NSA is, right? But so think about all that and do the best you can. And again, if you can't carry, you have no intention of carrying a firearm, then you're looking maybe more for something just for home defense, and that's an easier choice, to tell you the truth. That is a much easier a slot to fill, because size of the gun is not an issue, and just not. It's the features, how it feels, how well you shoot it, and anything from a good big old pistol to a shotgun, works for that. So a lot easier choosing. But when you're going to carry something, it's a different proposition. Now, worst case scenario, it's not exactly tragic if you end up with an extra firearm, right? You have another gun in your collection. There's nothing wrong with having a nice little pocket gun, a suitable holster for it, and then also a really nice belt gun. I think if you're going to carry and you're going to take it pretty seriously, it doesn't hurt at all. Most people would have both. Some people carry both at one time. Have one in their pocket and they have a belt holster. That might fall under the category of paranoia for you, and a lot of us maybe. I don't know. Police do that. They generally have a backup gun. So, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So think through it as best you can, and how you dress and how you go about your daily life, and what it would take to conceal a firearm. And heck, you could borrow a holster or buy a holster or something and just stick a sock in it or something, I don't know, and wear the stupid thing around and see, are you really going to be able to conceal this? Is it going to be too much for you? Is it going to bother you? You're going to be able to do that, If you can't manage just the holster, you may not want to go to the next step and have a loaded firearm in it, okay? So anyway, hopefully that helps a little bit. One of the things I meant to mention about the Louisville gun show, and it's a good one. You see lots of everything there. And there was a guy who had, I guess he called a collection. Maybe he had a lot of, I guess he bought and sold. That's one of the things he just did. Bought and sold old Smith & Wessons. And he had all these old, whoops, somebody's sending me text. Can you hear it? It's John, of all people. But there was a guy who had some boxes, old boxes, the wooden boxes that the big Smith end frames came in. You've maybe seen mine in the Dirty Harry video or some of the Model 29 videos. But it's interesting. He had some nickel-plated Model 29s, and he had a couple of blue ones. He had a 4-inch blue that... Come to think of it, boy, I was tempted to try to trade on that thing. I looked at it pretty hard. But because you didn't see that many 4-inch blue Model 29s. I don't, for some reason, they just did not apparently make that many with a blue finish. I don't know why. But I had a nickel one, maybe two different ones back in the 70s. Had 6-inch, 6.5-inch Model 29, and of course the 8 3/8 that I still have. The first one, and they come in those boxes, those wooden, I think they're walnut boxes, lined with blue felt. Well, he had a couple, 3 of those, and opened up, and of course they were made in the early 70s, mid 70s, and it was kind of funny. I was standing there looking at those, and they were kind of. One was kind of moldy, I guess, the felt was. I could smell it. Even in that big room, I could kind of smell the moldiness of it. It's probably been closed up, most of the time. And so when you open it for the show, but just that moldy, and it was, not in perfect shape. It looked a little moldy in a way. The beautiful gun in there, but, it wasn't in perfect shape. It's highly collectible, $1,000 or something, But And I stood there thinking, wow, several of these things I bought, and that's just what was in the shops. That's what people were buying and selling at the time. And man, have I gotten old. Here I am standing at a gun show looking at these very same things I was looking at in gun shops when I first got into shooting, in the 70s in a big way. And buying these things were new. I was buying and trading them, and here I am. It's like I got in a time machine. It's like a Twilight Zone scene to me almost. These guns are like, they look old. These boxes are ancient, moldy, these antiques, and these incredible prices on them. It's like, what happened? I should have bought 50 of them. But it's interesting to see those things, and it's neat that somebody has them, actually, and a few of them are still intact, the boxes and everything, even though they're expensive. So that's one of the advantages of a show like that. You see things you don't see other places, or that you could scrounge around for months and months at little gun shows and never see, at least in the quantity, that you might see at a really good gun show. So it's neat. And for someone like myself, I've been involved in firearms for so long, it is like walking back through memory lane, a lot of it. Me, I like the old stuff from the 1800s and early 1900s and all that too. But then there's another part of history, which seems like a long time ago to some of you, if you were even alive then. It even seems like a long time ago to me, I guess, in the 70s. And that stuff is really old now, and it's kind of weird, seeing the antiques from my childhood. I remember walking around flea market in Nashville with my parents when they'd come visit, and my mom and dad, they were always, oh, there's that thing we had one of those growing up, or we used those, and they would act surprised. What's it doing here, being sold as an antique, or we got one at their house, Well, I've become my parents now. When I'm at a flea market like that, I'm kind of that way too now. I see, well, there's that stuff I grew up with, and I might still have it, and they're selling it as collectible, as an antique. So that's just the normal course of events. When you get to be an old dude like myself, I guess I've talked long enough here. I don't know how long it's been, but probably have bent your ear too long. But again, that's why I do these. It's simple to do them. I can just come out here and talk to you for a little bit, and I don't get into the real radio show kind of stuff. And I wouldn't do it if I had to do that. If I had to think about it too much, just a little something extra, if you consider it extra. But we'll be doing some more videos, yeah. And it seems like there's lots of guns coming and going. But it's interesting, all the sexy guns that have come in that we borrowed, and even people have given us some pretty interesting guns lately. I still get the most excited about like this old AUG-3 A3 30-06 World War II. Of course, the same design basically as the AUG-3. This is just the A3 version of it that was used in World War I and all the way through. But in that Colt single action, second generation, I traded for just a sweet pistol. Oh man, I love that thing. And I'll have to get those on camera at some point. So lots of guns come and go, and different things that I know people would want to see and hear about, or thinking about buying it maybe, that whatever. And maybe I'm not even thinking about buying it. It's not even a gun that is on my radar that much, but I know there's buzz about it, and it's in a genre, or it's a type of firearm that a lot of people are interested in. Then we enjoy doing that too. It's just fun to shoot different firearms and see how they work, and learn about them, myself, and pass that on. So it's all fun, but I obviously, as you know, have my favorites, the ones that really touch my soul. Oh boy, anti-gunners would love to hear that, wouldn't they? You sick people, you. But they kind of do, especially if they have any historical significance. This old 1911 in here, this junker 1911, this Ed Brown, even though it's it's an expensive gun made by a modern pistol smith and modern shop and all that. One of the things so cool about it As I said in the video, I think you look at it, and it, other than being stainless, it, at first glance, it kind of looks like an old 1911. Doesn't look all that different. It's just, especially with no rail, and excuse me, or anything like that on it. No serrations in front of the slide, and nothing crazy. Well, that's not crazy, but just it does change the look of it. The big wide rails really change the look of a 1911. To me, they make them much less attractive. And of course, what's more important than how attractive your firearm is? Well, when you're not going to battle with it, that is an important factor. Think about it. John and I talk about this. We talk about the gun, what the gun needs and what you need and all this kind of stuff. Well, look, you could argue that everybody needs one good gun. I could argue that. You need a good gun. You might need a good pistol and a rifle and a shotgun. Ideally, everybody has a pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun. That does nothing but support the Second Amendment. I'd be happy if everybody had an AR, whether you like them or not, and 15 magazines and a couple thousand rounds of ammo. Might not hurt if our overreaching government knew that everybody has one of those. Hey, doesn't hurt, and everybody around the planet knows. Actually, it's not far from that, is it? And everybody ought to know that most people have those, perhaps. I don't know about most people, but, oh man, hundreds of thousands, millions, actually, millions of people, many millions. What I meant to say, I think, was almost hundreds of millions. I wonder how many ARs are out there in people's hands in this country. I believe the number of guns, firearms, is 300 or 400 million out there, and the number, the general numbers are that over 100 million people in this country own firearms, and out of 100 million, I don't know, 25 million, you reckon, have an AR-15? I don't know. But anyway, it's good to have guns, and everybody does need one or two, unless they're just deathly afraid of them. But once you get past the basic, then, the functional firearm that you need, quote unquote, then you can afford to look at I need another 1911. I don't want rails on it. Maybe if your 1911 serves as your bedstand gun and your bedroom gun and your home defense weapon, and you want a flashlight on it, well, maybe you do need rails on it, So I don't want to make fun of that. But still, a 1911 is just a good-looking gun when it does not have the rails on it. And that's just me, but I'm old school. That's one reason I like this one so much. So anyway, I've probably yacked at you long enough. And again, I appreciate you all watching and listening. Please help out however you can, the other viewers, the other commenters. Help them with information. If you're someone who has seen a lot of the videos, you already know a lot of the questions that they ask. If it's about a firearm or it's just about me or about stuff like that. And I see that you do answer them, and I appreciate that. And, and apparently some of you are helping to spam out the idiots, because I see some of those stupid remarks, in spam when I go in, and somebody has sent them there, which is great. The videos, are still, I think, very, very viewable by little kids and young kids and anybody that wants to. There's not that much junk in there to turn off parents and make them want to keep their kids away from it. There's just very little of that, and that's partly thanks to you all. So help me with that, so we can represent the Second Amendment and have fun with firearms. Hey. That's what it's about. So all I can say is, let's shoot. Life is good.
You've been listening to the Hickok45 Radio Show. See you on the range.